So, since my last video, which was the pros and cons of being a wildlife rehabilitator, I have had hundreds of questions regarding how I became one, what education, all this stuff. I decided, instead of responding to all these comments, that I would just make a video and sum it up for you guys. Life update for me, I actually just recently moved on from wildlife rehabilitation. I'm now working in an exotic vet clinic, and my wildlife rehab experience is really helping me have a well-rounded education for different species. So my goal is actually to become a doctor of veterinary medicine. I applied to vet school next year, so hopefully I will get in. I did not expect this for myself, especially when I made my pros and cons video. I remember saying I didn't really want to become a vet just because of the emotional aspect of it. I've grown a lot since then, and I believe being in wildlife rehab and also public education helped me learn that I can handle these things, and I'm more able to trust myself. But for now, I'm going to be answering your questions about wildlife rehabilitation. Okay, so the first question is, do you need a permit? Yes. So I will go into kind of some resources for you guys to dive into, but just an example, the National Wildlife Rehabilitation Association, on their website, there is guidelines for becoming certified, like what certification you need to legally perform wildlife rehabilitation in your state or country. I think it focuses on Canada and the States mainly, so I apologize for anyone internationally, but just because there's so many different rules depending on where you live, I'm just going to focus on North America for this video. But I'm just looking here, there's actually like a really nice grid that'll tell you like what you have to apply for, and no one generally can just willy-nilly apply. You have to display that you know what you're doing and that you are qualified to do so. So for the first link in the comments, I'll link the National Wildlife Rehabilitation Association affiliated with the permitting page that they have, so you can explore that at your leisure. Do you think you can make a comfortable living wage as a wildlife rehabber? I mean, it's people aren't in it for the money, okay, period. That being said, you can, I mean, depending on where you live. Like if I were to do it here, I'd probably be living paycheck to paycheck. Let's not, sugarcoat it. However, there is room to move up. I can recommend, if you want to grow in your career as a wildlife rehabber and make a bit more money, and you don't want to become, a full-time vet or something, quite a lot of organizations nowadays are hiring veterinary technicians because they don't necessarily have a full-time vet on staff. They have to have an overseeing vet, but generally technicians are a huge help to these nonprofits. And so if you wanted to advance your education, you could get a veterinary technician diploma, because you do get paid a little bit more as well. I know around me, this was I think the first year that I've seen an ad for a veterinary technician, which was really cool because even though they prepare you for clinic work in like a small animal clinic or such, you can use it in wildlife rehab as well. Next question says, how old do you have to be to volunteer at an animal rehab center? It really depends. I mean, honestly, just email them or call them and ask. Around where I live, maybe 18. You might be able to get away with maybe 16 if you have like parental permission, but honestly, baseline around here, it's usually 18. But again, just call them up, email them up, and just ask. All right, is wildlife rehab a secure job? It can be. I mean, you're working for nonprofits a lot of the time. So a lot of organizations rely on funding to hire people. I mean, unless for some reason the nonprofit goes under, I don't see why it wouldn't be stable. I've never had an issue. If they're well funded by the public, which most rehabs have to be in order to run, efficiently. So yeah, it can be. All right. Is there a lot of paperwork? Not really. I mean, if you're gonna be an administrator or something, yeah, probably. You have to do product orders and things like that. If you're just a wildlife rehabber, you're just keeping a lot of files. I think there was another question of, is there a lot of math involved? Not really, not like as if you're gonna be a vet necessarily, but you do like medication dose conversions and things like that. So once you know how to do it, it's fairly standard, and you don't have to remember like a ton of formulas and stuff per se. And for the paperwork, yeah, it's just keeping accurate records. keeping up on it. I wouldn't say there's piles and piles of paperwork unless you're, again, being an administrator or something. Okay, and now the question that everyone has been asking me. What education do you need in order to become a wildlife rehabilitator? I used to go one by one and answer all these questions, but I just got so many people asking the same question, so here it is. Like I said earlier, volunteering gets your foot in the door. It's very unlikely that you're going to get a paid job as a rehabber with zero experience. So, like I mentioned for myself in my previous video, I volunteered once a week for 4 hours a week for that summer. I was in school. And then I did a full-time 2-month practicum or internship to kind of take me to the next level, and that wasn't paid, but some are, I will say that. Some are not paid, but like they'll reimburse you for food and things. And at my rehab, I had to actually apply an interview for an internship position. And because I was working toward my Bachelor of Science at that time, they favored me over people who weren't. But honestly, a lot of centers will just, they want the free help, so they usually don't like decline people. But in my case, there was quite a few people that applied, and they did favor because I was working towards my degree. But then when I got my paid job, which was the next year after that, so the 3rd year I was involved in it, I got a paid job because I did an internship at that rehab. I didn't get the paid job necessarily because I was working towards my bachelor's. It was because I was affiliated. I knew everyone. This was my 3rd year going in, and so it was easy for them to just, do a quick interview and hire me. So I definitely think that my Bachelor of Science major in biology helped me kind of get favored through the process. However, it's not necessarily mandatory. So if you're just looking to volunteer, if you're, let's just say, retired, or like you have some spare time on your hands and you just want to help animals, you don't need anything to volunteer. These centers are just desperate for help a lot of the time. They're nonprofits. Some centers, even one near where I live now, has like 2 paid employees, and the rest is all volunteer or practicum students. And if you're in high school, which I've had a couple high school students also comment, if you have an interest in biology and animals, take the biology courses. Yeah, I think there's, I don't know where you live, but where I live there was 1 biology class per semester. So yeah, go ahead, take it, learn as much as you can. And for those of you who were asking me, is there any course I can do? What university did you go to? All these questions. In university, I did not specialize in anything that helped me in wildlife rehab. I will blatantly put it that way. The 2 courses that I took that really helped me just like in myself and how I did my job was parasitology and ornithology, honest to God. The rest of my courses were all ecology based and not necessarily applicable at the rehab itself. But again, that was my experience, and I didn't pick those courses because of rehab. I picked them because I was genuinely interested in them. I did do some digging, and there are 2 organizations I know for sure in North America that have a lot of great resources for people wanting to be rehabbers or are rehabbers, and I'll put the links below. And one of them, called the International Wildlife Rehabilitation Council, they have courses, and what's really interesting, they're not full courses, but it's a weekend thing, and they actually travel, I think honestly all around the world. I think I've seen one in Europe and especially the States and Canada, but I'll put the link below, and it's a weekend course, and it's basic wildlife rehabilitation, and you go to a central meeting spot, and they have labs, and you can learn how to bandage and learn how to do fluid therapy and things like that with no prior experience. Anyone can sign up for these, I believe. And they also have some other courses like zoonotic diseases, oil spill treatment, things like that, that just kind of broaden your knowledge. So they're just little courses that you can take to kind of help you get kick-started. Also on the IWRC, they have a job board. So I mentioned earlier doing internship placements or being vet tech in a rehab, or even just rehab jobs in general. I found it really actually amazing that they have a whole job board for people like you and I. So I'll also link that below. I think a lot of you would be interested in that. There's internships in Florida, Missouri, Kansas, all these places, and some of them even pay for you to live there while you are doing your however many month internship. I would look into that if you're interested in just doing, getting your foot in the door there. That's really great experience. It could get you a leg up in getting a full paid job somewhere. And also on the IWRC website, you can also buy a variety of books and stuff as well. If you take one of the basic wildlife rehab courses through the IWRC, they do require you to buy a book called Wildlife Rehabilitation, A Comprehensive Approach. It is very interesting. It's a huge book. Like, there's no way you're probably going to read the whole thing, but it kind of has your whole Kickstarter, like all the principles of what goes into wildlife rehabilitation. All right, so the second website is the National Wildlife Rehabilitation Association, and they have a lot of great educational content on there. They have a lot of publications from scientific journals and some other education and training. I think it's mainly geared towards like people who are already in the field. But again, as I mentioned earlier about the licensing stuff, they have a whole section on what federal, or that's Canada, what license you need depending on where you live. So that information is on the NWRA. If you have any other questions about this topic, if I get enough, I'll make a part 2, but I feel like since my first video of the pros and cons, I answered pretty much all of the main questions. And I look forward to updating you on my Doctor of Veterinary Medicine. Well, what if I don't get in? Then that's really embarrassing, Kai. Should I say that?
Just say it. It'll be really embarrassing.
Yeah. I hope in the future I can do a series of my journey through veterinary medicine. So hopefully I can make that for your enjoyment as well. Yeah, so thanks for watching, and I hope this video helps you guys on your rehab journey.